I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. Hustick. Here. Hornberger. Here. LaBelle. Baroni. Here. Tkachuk.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Smith here. We have a full board this evening. Okay. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Chesterfield Township Board of Appeals, Zoning Board of Appeals. This board is a quasi-judicial board which consists of 7 members. In order for your variance to be granted this evening, you must receive a majority vote from the full board. In order for this board to grant a variance, you must prove a practical difficulty exists with the property. Unfortunately, personal circumstances or financial hardships rarely provide a basis for satisfying the standards set forth in Section 7.2E6 of the Township Zoning Ordinance. If your variance is granted, you have 6 months to obtain the required permits, or your variance will expire and you must reappear before this board. If your variance is denied, you have the right to appeal this decision. By state statute, you may appeal to the Circuit Court of Macomb County and have 30 days to file such an appeal. There is no other township board that can override a zoning board of appeals decision. All cases will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. I will call the case, then the public hearing will be opened. The applicant will have the opportunity to speak. The board will then ask questions of the applicant. Each member of the public who wishes to speak will have 3 minutes to do so. We ask you please state your name and address for the record. At the end of the public hearing, the applicant will have the opportunity to address any questions or concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, it will then be brought back to the board for consideration, a motion, and a roll call vote. Item number 5 on the agenda is petitions. I can't. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Hustick approves motions. Is there support?
Support.
Mr. Baroni supports. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the agenda. Item number 5, petitions. The first variance petition is number 2026-01. This is by Chesterfield LLC and is requesting a 12-foot side yard setback from the required 50-yard setback in section 3.21D for parcel number 150930352006. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Motion by LaBelle, supported by Hornberger. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is open. Would the petitioner please approach the podium? Please state your name and address for the record. You got
Greg Icabelli, 5363. Geez, I don't even know my own address. 53639 Christie Drive, Chesterfield, Michigan, 48051. It stays red. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. This is the first of 2 petitions this evening, and we do have to consider each one separately. Is there a presentation you would like to make to this board before we consider?
Yes. I've given out the packages to, I believe Jacob doesn't have one. We are proposing 2 industrial buildings on a vacant piece of property that is on the north side of 21 Mile Road, just east of Gratiot. It's on the border next to Macomb Township. It borders Macomb Township on the west side. And we are seeking 2 variances. First variance is 12-foot is a reduction from 50-foot required side yard setback to 12-foot side yard setback. The traditional the ordinance allows to go down to the light industrial ordinance allows to go down to a normal 5-foot side yard setback when it's abutting a different district other than residential or commercial. 50-foot is kind of a steep ordinance. Most setbacks, most industrial zones allow a 0-line setback, other than if it's up against a residential, a commercial. The intent of the ordinance, we feel, is more for front-facing. If the front-facing of the commercial is facing the industrial side, but this is the rear side, the rear loading of the shopping center facing a side yard of the industrial building. The shopping center's parking spots are adjacent to the property, and if the variance is granted, I've attached the proposed landscape plan on there. We will provide screening as well, additional screening along that side yard line there. The second application is for the rear yard setback, which the township ordinance requires it to be 100-foot. The traditional industrial ordinance is a 50-foot rear yard setback. The property to the north was rezoned to multifamily, so that triggers the larger rear yard setback. It's kind of a unique situation there. The rear yard there's a forest area that separates us. There's a little void on the east side. There's about a 20-foot void of trees, which we would, if the variance is granted, we would fill that in proportionately. As part of our site plan approval with the Planning Commission next week, we're proposing to leave the existing woods that are there for screening. The neighboring property is a future old folks home there, and there was a big improvement done with the Wacker drain there, and there's a tremendous amount of landscaping to be done on their side when they're finished. That'll really buffer our building from their property. Our truck wells are internal, so they face each other, so the truck wells will not face the residential at all. And again, we feel that the standard 50-foot setback is appropriate for the site. We don't think either of these requests are, they're not in any nature in the area there. They're not going to deteriorate or cause any of the neighbors to be upset with anything. The uses should be pretty simple, straight light industrial. It's not heavy industrial. Won't be loud stamping or anything like that, any presses or anything like that. And all the submittals you have there, I apologize. I thought they used the screen, but I would have brought an easel and printed the stuff on bigger stuff, so I ended up just bringing those. So the first page is just the rendering of the twin buildings that we'd like to build. They're not identical in size. We wanted to make them identical in size, but we can't because of the easement that has to service the cell tower back there. They have to have access to get there, so we had to offset the buildings. So one building is a little larger than the other building. They're both going to be twins. They're going to look identical, color-wise and everything. They'll be nice-looking buildings, and that's the first sheet. The second sheet shows the perspective of the shopping center next door. There will be 58 feet between buildings. If approved, we'll have the 12-foot side yard setback, and that existing building is 46 feet from the property line. So it has 58 feet. There'll be 58 feet between buildings. And then they have their maneuvering lane there. So there's plenty of maneuverability there, and we won't affect that at all. And again, that's their rear. We're facing their loading areas, their rear loading area. And the building in the back, we will be almost 300 feet. We should be about I think it's 291 feet exactly that will be apart from the two buildings will be separated. And again, they're separated by a large green belt area that's been improved. And there's a small, if you look at the last sheet, the existing Google Earth, there's a small void there on our east property line there that we would propose to fill that with additional trees to completely screen the residential.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board members regarding either petition? Mr. LaBelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming in this evening, talking to us about your project. This sounds pretty exciting for you as well for us. When I consider a variance, there are some things that I consider. What is your practice? And I'm going to ask these questions if you could elaborate on them. Number one is, what is the practical difficulty here? Why are you asking or requesting this for this variance? And secondly, if you can elaborate on unnecessary hardship on this, on how our ordinance are written and why we're imposing something that's difficult for you to abide by. And the last one is, if you can elaborate on how this isn't self-created. Is it because of the land shape, the wetlands, things like that, different things? If you could elaborate on how this is not self-created. Thank you.
The hardship, start with the rear yard setback, the existing property to the north, the rezoning affected this property. That was not created by us. The rezoning takes it from a 100-foot setback to a 50-foot setback. So that's a difficulty that was not induced by us. That was created by the rezoning. The side yard setback, the hardship on that is we feel the 50-foot side yard setback is very restrictive when it's a rear to side yard facing, not a front to front or a front to rear. It's a rear to a side, so we feel that the ordinance is extreme in that matter. When the actual ordinance would allow it to go down to 5 feet if it was buffering light industrial or I even believe an office for the it's 50 foot from the general commercial and for a residential development. It's a tough hardship. On the west side, there's several easements that don't allow us to go to the 5-foot setback on the west side because I think there's 3 or 4 Detroit Edison easements that feed that cell tower in the back. We didn't create none of them. We didn't create none of the hardships, and we feel that they're pretty reasonable asks. They meet the intent. The buildings we're going to build, so, we feel they substantially meet the intent of the Chesterfield Township ordinance for an industrial building.
Thank you. And I just want to remind all the board members as well is we're talking about a variance tonight. We're not talking about landscaping. We're not talking about site plan approval, the aesthetics of a building, what a building looks like and what have you. But, and when you do come to planning, and it's going to be one of the questions that I'm going to ask, and I just want you to be prepared for it, is in your narrative that you had written to us, you mentioned that you're going to be leaving the trees in the back. Is that existing forest on your property, or is it on somebody else's property?
It's on both. It wavers on both. It wavers on both property lines. Okay. Yeah. And that's one of the things we'll address at the Planning Commission. We can bring the actual survey. If there's a gap on our side, we will fill it. We will offer to fill it.
And please understand that, if in fact somebody does present a motion this evening for approval, it does not approve anything with landscaping, the forest in the back, any of that. This is just for the variance for the setbacks.
Not allowed to make a contingent on that? We'll deal with that with the planning commission, or okay, thank you.
When did you purchase the property?
Question. I want to say 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. 19, 20, 21, somewhere in that area.
Perhaps to say it'd be easier pre-COVID or post-COVID would be? Pre-COVID, okay. The property was rezoned to the north in 2020. It went from C1 to a multi-residential mid-rise at that point. Were you aware that the zoning had been changed on that property and how it would affect your property if indeed you had purchased it prior to that zoning change?
I believe we purchased it prior to the rezoning because I got recollection that we had heard it through our industry. I don't believe we were ever mailed. I had checked our office a few times to see if we ever received any mailings on that, when there was a variance, but we did not have that. And it could have went, our offices, we've got multiple offices, and sometimes people get a hold of one of our job site trailers, and we get mail sent there, so we don't know. But if we were aware of it, we would have came to the meeting and not protested, just asked for consideration when we come back for site plan approval on our property.
So the buildings that are that you're proposing, basically you're suggesting that you're moving the complex, the two buildings to the east to accommodate the easement on the west side of the property. How far is the building closest to the west side of the property off of the property line now, according to your proposal?
I believe it's 26 feet. The easements total 25 feet, and on our site plan, I didn't bring the copy of the site plan, but I believe we stayed a foot extra away from the easements.
So let's assume it's 26 feet, then there's a 21-foot difference if that was manufacturing on the west side of the property, and you were able to go within 5 feet of the property line. You have moved the buildings over 21 feet from that, okay? And you're requesting on the east side a 38-foot variance, okay? Is there any way you could shrink the size of the buildings, relocate them, rearrange them, so that you could be in compliance, maybe not complete compliance, but more in compliance with the potential of, with the zoning requirement of the 50-foot setback? Okay.
Yeah, the building, I know the setback it's a large variance request on the side yard setback there, but we feel the 50-foot is that's an extreme ask on between the rear yard of a commercial building and the side yard of an industrial building. If that property was residential, we wouldn't even be asking. We wouldn't even be asking for a variance on it. We would just, we would just address it and go. But it's a large requirement. 50 feet. It's a big ask. To have a 50-foot side yard setback on an industrial building, that's just gonna be green belt and.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from board members?
I have some questions.
Mr. Tkachuk.
Thank you, sir, for coming today. You told us what the buildings won't be used for. They won't be used for stamping and heavy stuff like that. Could you tell us what they will be used for?
There'll be general light industrial buildings. We don't have, we're always working with prospective tenants, but it'll be anything will have to fit within the light industrial uses. It'll be, a lot of these buildings now are being occupied by logistics companies, and so that seems to be the trend. Smaller plastic injection mold shops, that type of stuff. I can tell you it will not be a marijuana facility. So it'll strictly be, it'll be some kind of character like that. We're actually talking to one of our, we're trying to convince one of our tenants on Herb Drive there to come across the street.
One more question. So, could you just tell the board why you can't make building number 2 smaller?
We can make it, we could make it smaller. We prefer not to make it smaller. It's we're trying to hit, we got one building that's at 45,000 feet, and the other one's at 30,000. So we're trying to stay away from odd sizes of buildings. And we have that easement in the middle that feeds the cell tower that we have to provide ingress egress for them as well.
Are there any further questions from the board?
I have a question in regards to that, your last statement. The means of egress is through the center of your property, through your parking lot, and then back to that cell tower?
Yeah, yes.
So that creates where you have to have a separation to the buildings. You can't make one building, you have to have two.
We can't build one big building.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
It's a learning process. Well, thanks for being here tonight, and thanks for your commitment to the township all through the years and the number of projects that you've brought forward that have been quality projects. My question for you is, if you were not to get this past the Zoning Board of Appeals, would you, and are unable to make this cost-effective for you, would you walk away from the project?
We can't walk away from the project, but it will limit our availability to market the site to potential tenants.
So do you have any sense of what the taxes revenue is that would come to the township once this project were to come about?
Based on the current assessments on what we went through at North Bay with the last new industrial buildings, it's 75,000 square feet with the mills. My guess would be close to probably in that $150,000 to $175,000 a year range.
This is crazy with these microphones that you got to turn them off and on, but so be it. I didn't design the building. But either way, so do you have any sense of the number of jobs that might be created as a result of this project?
Again, based on just traditional information on the size of the buildings, probably anywhere from 75 to 125.
And so the reality of all this is, in terms of your ask, is to make this a profitable venture for you, and in some ways it's not profitable. You have to adhere to some of the onerous or burdensome matters that have been brought forward this evening. But you're a business person, and that's what it's all about for business people, to be able to make sense of the projects that they bring forward. So that really is the limiting factor for you in many ways, is it not?
Correct.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Okay. So one of the things that the zoning board has to consider, well, really the only thing, is the condition of the property and whether the property can be used for its intended purpose in the zoning district, which in this case is M1, right? So really the only consideration is, can the property be used in its current state with all the limitations placed on it as an M1 facility, right? And so the real question of that is, the zoning ordinance, which is based on the master plan, contemplates a certain intensity and density. to the property itself. And if the variance is granted, does this board basically set aside the ordinance so that the property can be used more intensely and more densely than it had been zoned for, right? So you've talked about the property to the north and the fact that the zoning was changed on that, which impeded basically 50 feet of your property, which was not the condition when you purchased the property, right? And we've talked about the easements that are running either onto the west side of the property or through the center of it that limit the way that you can actually use the property and build on it. That's just my observations of what's happening here. Are there any other questions from the board members at this time? Mr. Johnson?
So I unfortunately was not at previous meetings where there was a public hearing that took place on this matter. Was it not the case? There's never been a public hearing?
This is the first one.
So was the public invited tonight to come to this meeting?
Yes, it's an open meeting.
Okay.
It was published.
I assumed as much, but I don't see anybody from the public here that's adverse to this matter.
I'm not going to sell Mr. Finazzo short. He's a member of the public.
I'm in his shorts today at the gym, so I'm not selling them short either. But either way. Okay, well, just was curious as to that matter, so thank you for that.
If there are no other questions from the board, we will open it to the public. Should anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, it goes back to the petitioner, and will any board members have any further questions that they would like to ask? Is there anything else you would like to state for this board to consider?
No, just the fact that the regular ordinance does allow the industrial buildings to go down to 5 foot. And then your heavy industrial zoning allows it to go to 0 lot line, which is kind of contradicting because you would think the heavier industrial should have the larger setback. But yeah, we believe the variances are in line with the intent of the ordinance, and we don't think we're asking for anything that's going to be subjected. It's going to be an issue with any of the neighbors or anything. We've thought it out carefully, and there's one of the other very large setbacks that Chesterfield has that we're not asking for a variance is the front yard setback. Those buildings are being pushed back 125 feet from the right-of-way property line, which that in itself is probably 40 to 50 feet more than what it would be traditionally. 25 feet of that is because of there's some residential homes on the south side of 21 Mile Road, so that causes and it triggers the berm that has to be built in the front there that we're proposing. So we've got some limitations that we're working with, and we're just trying to produce a viable project that we can market well and that it can help the township as well.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no public comment, or are there any further questions from the board? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Okay. Moved by Township, supported by Hornberger. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, we're at that section of the meeting where the board must consult with itself and make a motion on both. I'm going to go ahead and each petition has to be proposed and voted on separately. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve petition 2026-01 for the 12-foot side yard setback reduced from 50-foot based on multiple practical difficulties of the property, including 2 easements and a rezoning of the property to the north.
I'd support that motion.
The motion maker was Mr. Barone. It was supported by Mr. Johnson. A roll call vote. Hustick. Hornberger. LaBelle. Barone.
Aye.
Smith, aye.
Aye.
Takacic is aye. And Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Thank you. You have a variance approval for the first petition, 26-01. What is the board's pleasure with 26-02, the 50-yard rear setback of request?
I would also like to make a motion to approve petition 2026-02 for the same practical difficulties of the property, the 2 easements, and the rezoning of the property to the north.
I'd support that.
Okay, the motion maker was Mr. Barone. Mr. Johnson supported. Roll call vote. Mr. Barone.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Hustick.
Aye.
Ms. Hornberger. Mr. LaBelle. Mr. Smith, aye. Mr. Takacic.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Yeah. Yep. Just a reminder, you have 6 months to pull the permits, and obviously you have to go before the planning commission and for site plan approval.
I was just going to ask you that. If we get tight on that, by the time you go through engineering approval and building plans and all that, is this just an application to renew it if we catch it, if we come in the 5th month, if we know we're not going to get a building permit to the 7th month, or do we make presentation again?
I would have to refer you to staff for that, so you would need to. Please, Mr. LaBelle, can you answer?
Ms. Barone can elaborate, but I believe that you can request an extension.
Yes. Okay, next item, old business. No old business, no new business. Approval of the minutes from December 10th, 2025, if there are motion. Hornberger motions. Support. Mr. Hustick supports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Number 9, public comments. Are there any public comments this evening? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Hustick motions, Hornberger supports. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.